Have you ever wondered if aging means saying goodbye to desire, connection, or the possibility of rediscovering joy? Society often paints a bleak picture of growing older, but what if I told you it's entirely wrong? What if the later chapters of life aren't about losing passion but uncovering a deeper, richer understanding of it, one that transcends physicality and dives into the soul? In today's video, we're uncovering truths rarely spoken about: how aging transforms our experience of intimacy, connection, and desire into something more profound than ever imagined. We'll explore the inspiring story of Clara Johnson, an 85-year-old woman whose life challenges everything you've been led to believe about growing older. Her journey is a testament to the fact that life's fire doesn't fade. It simply burns differently, and in many ways, more beautifully. Through Clara's wisdom, we'll dive into questions that many of us are too hesitant to ask. Does desire truly disappear with age? How do we navigate the changes that come with growing older while staying connected to ourselves and others? And how can we rediscover the beauty of aging in ways that enrich our lives, rather than diminish them? By the end of this video, you'll see aging in a completely new light. You'll gain actionable insights to help you embrace each stage of life with grace, courage, and a sense of fulfillment. Whether you're looking for guidance, inspiration, or a reminder of life's enduring beauty, Clara's story holds something for everyone. So stay with us until the end, because the lessons you'll learn here might just transform how you see yourself, your future, and the incredible possibilities that come with every passing year. Let's redefine aging together. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I encourage you to click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on today's topic. If you enjoy the content, please comment 1 below. If it doesn't resonate with you, leave a 0. Your feedback is crucial as it helps me create better videos that align with your interests. Now, let's get started. Rewriting with emotional depth and detail. Today, let's dive into a topic that often lingers in silence, shrouded by societal taboos and unspoken assumptions. Pleasure, how it doesn't vanish with age but transforms into something richer, deeper, and infinitely more nuanced. In a world obsessed with youth, we rarely pause to consider the profound beauty of aging. Even less do we acknowledge how the body, mind, and heart evolve, continuing to crave connection, intimacy, and joy in ways that transcend physicality. Aging is not a retreat into shadows or an erasure of desire. It is an opportunity to discover entirely new dimensions of passion and fulfillment. Let me share with you a story, one that might just change how you perceive growing older. It's a story of defying conventions, embracing vulnerability, and rediscovering the self. This is the journey of Clara Johnson, an 85-year-old woman whose life reveals a truth often buried beneath whispers and shame: that desire doesn't expire, it transforms. Her tale is not just a testament to her courage but a beacon of wisdom, illuminating the path for those willing to see aging through a different lens. Meet Clara Johnson. To meet Clara is to encounter a force of quiet resilience. Her silver hair frames a face etched with lines that tell stories of laughter, tears, and unyielding strength. Her eyes, a soft gray, carry the weight of decades while radiating a warmth that feels like home. When she smiles, it's not just an expression, it's an invitation, a promise that everything, no matter how heavy, can be met with grace. Clara's life has been anything but ordinary. She has danced in the sunlight of love and weathered the storms of heartbreak. She has cradled her children, watched them grow, and faced the bittersweet ache of letting them go. She has grieved the loss of loved ones, yet she has never allowed sorrow to dim her light. But what sets Clara apart is her fierce authenticity. She is unafraid to speak of things others avoid, her honesty shining like a beacon in her small Vermont community. To her neighbors, Clara is a wellspring of wisdom, a storyteller, a confidant, and a living reminder of the beauty in embracing every chapter of life. Yet, behind her role as the wise elder lies a secret that Clara has guarded closely, not out of shame but out of reverence for its intimacy. Beneath her composed exterior lives a woman who still feels deeply, who still longs for connection, and who has come to understand that desire is not the domain of youth, but a thread that weaves through every stage of existence. A question only Clara could answer. Enter Andrew Carter, a 25-year-old man navigating the uncertainties of adulthood. To Andrew, Clara has always been more than a neighbor. She is a mentor and a surrogate grandmother, her words often a balm to his restless spirit. But as he matures, Andrew finds himself wrestling with a question that feels too awkward, even taboo, to voice. Yet, something tells him Clara might hold the answer he seeks. One crisp autumn afternoon, the golden leaves framing Clara's cozy kitchen window, Andrew nervously stirs his tea. The room smells of cinnamon and the faint scent of wood smoke from the crackling fire, a sanctuary of comfort that gives him just enough courage to ask what's been on his mind. Clara, he begins hesitantly, his voice almost a whisper. Can I ask you something personal? It's something I don't think I could ask anyone else. Clara sets down her teacup and looks at him with that familiar, reassuring smile. Of course, Andrew. What's on your mind? He fidgets, his cheeks flushing. Is it normal? I mean, do people still feel desire, sexual desire, when they get older? I don't mean to be rude, it's just that no one talks about it. It's like it's something that just disappears. For a moment, Clara is silent, her gaze thoughtful. Then, she smiles, a smile that holds understanding, empathy, and a touch of mischief. Andrew, she says softly, you've asked a question that many people wonder about but rarely dare to voice. Let me tell you something. Those feelings, those desires, they don't disappear. They change, yes, but they don't fade. In fact, they can become something even more profound, more beautiful, if we allow them to. Andrew blinks, taken aback by her candor. He had braced himself for polite avoidance or a dismissive laugh, but Clara's openness is disarming. She leans forward slightly, her voice taking on a tone of gentle urgency. Desire isn't just about the physical, Andrew, she continues. It's about connection, about being truly seen and understood. As we age, the way we experience pleasure shifts. It becomes less about the surface and more about the soul. The fire doesn't go out, it burns differently, and in some ways, it burns brighter. If you are still watching this video, and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Andrew sits back, his tea forgotten, as Clara begins to share her story. A story of rediscovery, of learning to embrace her changing body, and of understanding that the deepest pleasure comes not from youth or perfection, but from the courage to be vulnerable and present. Clara's revelation. Clara speaks of moments that might surprise Andrew, of nights spent gazing at the stars and feeling a profound connection to the universe, of finding joy in her own touch, her own breath. She shares how she learned to honor her desires without shame, to see them as a gift rather than a burden. As we grow older, society often tries to tell us we're invisible, that our time for passion has passed, she says. But they're wrong, Andrew. The heart doesn't know how to stop yearning. The body doesn't forget how to feel. What changes is our willingness to listen to it, to honor it. And when we do, the pleasure we find is deeper, richer, because it's born of understanding, not just instinct. Her words hang in the air, filling the room with a quiet power. For Andrew, it's a revelation. For Clara, it's simply the truth she has carried all along. In that small kitchen, surrounded by the gentle embrace of autumn, a young man learns what it means to age with grace, and an older woman reclaims her right to be heard, to be seen, and to be desired. And so, Clara's story becomes not just a tale of her life, but a mirror for anyone willing to look. A reminder that aging is not an ending but a transformation, a chance to discover pleasures and joys that are as timeless as the human spirit. Clara's revelation. When I turned 60, Clara begins, her voice steady but rich with emotion, I noticed something I didn't expect. I thought desire was like a season that would eventually pass, a chapter that would close forever. But instead, I discovered a different kind of flame, quieter, yes, but no less powerful. It wasn't the blazing, uncontrollable fire of my youth. It was softer, more deliberate, yet still deeply alive. She pauses, her gaze drifting toward the window where the autumn leaves dance in the breeze, her expression thoughtful. At first, I was confused, and, I'll admit, even ashamed. I had spent decades internalizing what the world says about women and aging, that after a certain point, we're meant to fade into the background, to let go of these parts of ourselves. I thought to feel this way was somehow wrong. Her lips curve into a gentle smile, her voice tinged with both humor and defiance. But then one day, a dear friend wise beyond her years, said to me, "Clara, we never stop being women. Desire doesn't disappear, it evolves." Those words opened a door I hadn't even realized was locked. Clara's face lights up as she continues, her hands gesturing with enthusiasm. She describes how she began to approach this new stage of her life with curiosity and courage. She learned to listen to her body, not as something to conquer or control, but as a partner, a guide. I started to understand its needs, its rhythms, and its whispers. What I found was not just physical pleasure, but a deeper, more profound connection to myself. I felt a kind of self-acceptance I had never known before. She pauses, her eyes meeting Andrew's. "You see, Andrew, the most surprising thing about aging is how much you still have to learn, not just about the world, but about yourself. I discovered that desire isn't a burden or a shameful secret. It's a gift, one that grows more meaningful as we age. Wisdom beyond years." Andrew sits motionless, captivated by Clara's candor. Her words challenge everything he thought he knew about aging. "Weren't you afraid of what people might think?" he asks, his voice hesitant, almost apologetic. Clara chuckles, the sound warm and rich, like the crackle of the fire beside them. "Of course I was. Fear and shame are formidable forces. They whisper in your ear, telling you to stay silent, to conform, to hide. But I realized something important, Andrew. If I lived in fear of judgment, I would be denying the most vital parts of myself. And what kind of life is that?" Her gaze softens, and she leans forward slightly, as if sharing a secret. "You see, our culture does a terrible disservice to aging. It tells us to fear it, to fight it, to see it as the end of something rather than the beginning of something else. But aging isn't a decline, it's a transformation. It's a chance to strip away the superficial and uncover what truly matters." She takes a deep breath, her voice dropping to an intimate, almost conspiratorial tone. "Do you know what I've learned about desire, Andrew? It's never just about the body. It's about the mind, the heart, and the soul. When you're young, it feels urgent, impulsive, almost frantic. But as you age, it changes. It becomes deeper, more meaningful. It's about connection, not just passion. It's about being seen and seeing someone else in return." Andrew doesn't speak for a moment, letting her words wash over him. The room feels heavier with truth, but lighter with possibility. Finally, he murmurs, "You make aging sound like a gift." Clara smiles, her expression radiant with quiet wisdom. "In many ways, it is. Aging teaches you to focus on what truly matters. It forces you to slow down, to find joy in the little things, a sunset, a quiet moment, the laughter of a friend. And if you're willing to embrace it, Andrew, every stage of life holds its own kind of magic. A lesson to carry forward." As Andrew steps out into the crisp autumn air that evening, Clara's words echo in his mind. For the first time, he doesn't see aging as a slow march toward invisibility, but as a journey of transformation. He realizes that aging isn't about loss, it's about discovery. It's about finding depth in places you never thought to look, and embracing parts of yourself you were told to leave behind. Clara's wisdom has given him a new lens through which to see the world. He knows her story will stay with him, a quiet guide as he navigates his own path. Her openness, her courage, and her refusal to shrink into the shadows of societal expectations have left a mark on him that will not fade. This story, raw and honest, invites all of us to rethink what it means to grow older. It challenges us to let go of outdated beliefs and celebrate the complexity and beauty of every stage of life. Through Clara's journey, we are reminded that desire, love, and connection are not fleeting gifts of youth. They are timeless, evolving treasures. Embracing them is not just an act of self-acceptance. It is a profound declaration of life itself. Rediscovering the body and soul. In the days following their conversation, Andrew found Clara's words lingering in his mind, weaving themselves into his thoughts with a quiet persistence. What he had sought was an answer, a simple explanation, but what Clara had given him was far more profound, a shift in perspective, a new lens through which to view life's later chapters. Meanwhile, Clara returned to the comforting rhythm of her days. Her mornings were spent tending to her small garden, her afternoons immersed in books or crafting small trinkets for her neighbors, and her evenings savoring the quiet joy of solitude by the fireplace. Yet, her conversation with Andrew stayed with her, too. His vulnerable question had stirred memories and reflections she hadn't revisited in years. She felt a deep gratitude for the trust he had placed in her, a trust that reminded her of the importance of sharing stories, no matter how personal. One winter evening, as the first snowfall of the season blanketed her quaint Vermont neighborhood, Clara sat by her fireplace with a journal resting on her lap. Writing had always been her sanctuary, a way to untangle life's complexities and distill her thoughts into clarity. The glow of the fire painted flickering shadows on the walls as she reflected on the story she had shared with Andrew, the story of her rediscovery, a journey that had reshaped her relationship with her body and soul. She recalled the pivotal moment vividly. It was during a late-night conversation with her oldest and dearest friend, Eleanor. They had been sipping tea by the fire, much like she was now, when Eleanor said something that changed everything. "Clara," Eleanor had said, her voice soft but resolute, "we spend so much of our lives trying to meet the expectations of others, family, society, even strangers. But when you reach our age, you realize the only expectations that truly matter are your own. Your body is still yours. It hasn't betrayed you. It's still capable of bringing you joy, if only you'd allow it to." Those words had been a revelation, a call to reclaim what she had unknowingly relinquished. That night, Clara made a decision. She would no longer let shame or societal judgments dictate how she felt about herself. Slowly, tentatively, she began to explore her body anew, not with the self-consciousness of youth, but with the curiosity and tenderness of someone rediscovering an old friend. She marveled at the sensation she had dismissed or forgotten, the subtle ways her skin responded to touch, the quiet whispers of pleasure that had not disappeared but merely transformed. It was like learning a new language, a language of self-love, acceptance, and intimacy. Clara found that this journey wasn't just about her body. It was about her spirit, her sense of self, and the profound realization that she could still experience joy on her terms. Andrew's next visit. A few weeks later, Andrew returned to Clara's house, his curiosity unabated. The crisp winter air clung to him as he knocked on her door. Clara greeted him with the warmth of an old friend, her smile as radiant as the firelight that welcomed him inside. "Andrew, how wonderful to see you again. Come in, it's freezing out there," she said, ushering him into the cozy living room where the fire crackled softly. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. They settled into their familiar spots, Clara's favorite armchair and Andrew on the worn but comfortable sofa. The room was filled with the scent of cinnamon tea and pine wood, a cocoon of comfort against the chill outside. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said last time," Andrew began, his tone earnest, "about how desire changes with age. But there's one thing I still can't quite understand. Doesn't growing older make it harder to connect with others? Doesn't loneliness creep in, especially when it comes to intimacy?" Clara nodded thoughtfully, her hands resting gently on her lap. "That's a fair question, Andrew. Loneliness is something most people face at some point in their lives, and it's especially common as we age. But I've come to learn that connection isn't always about physical or romantic intimacy. It's about emotional closeness, with others, yes, but also with yourself. Andrew's brows furrowed as he listened, his curiosity palpable. Clara continued, her voice calm but layered with emotion. You see, Andrew, the relationship I have with myself has become the most important one in my life. When you truly spend time understanding who you are, embracing your flaws, celebrating your strengths, you realize that loneliness isn't just the absence of others. It's the absence of connection with yourself. If you can learn to be your own companion, to find joy and peace within, you'll discover that loneliness loses much of its power. She paused, letting her words settle before continuing. That doesn't mean I don't crave connection with others. I do. But I've found that the connections I value most now are those rooted in authenticity. Whether it's a heartfelt conversation, a shared laugh, or even a moment of quiet understanding, these are the connections that sustain me. They go beyond the surface and touch something deeper. Andrew leaned back, his mind churning with her words. So, it's about redefining what connection means, he asked tentatively. Exactly, Clara said, her smile returning. It's about recognizing that intimacy isn't just physical. It's emotional, spiritual, even intellectual. It's about being present, about truly seeing and being seen. A new understanding. As Andrew left Clara's home that evening, the world outside felt different, softer somehow. Her words echoed in his mind, reshaping how he saw not just aging but life itself. Clara had shown him that growing older wasn't a descent into irrelevance or solitude. It was an opportunity to redefine, to reconnect, and to embrace the self in ways that were richer and more meaningful than he had ever imagined. Clara, meanwhile, returned to her journal by the fire, feeling a quiet satisfaction. She knew that her words had planted a seed of understanding in Andrew's heart, just as Eleanor's had done for her all those years ago. And in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of the fire and the gentle hum of her thoughts, Clara felt deeply connected, not just to Andrew, but to herself, and to the endless possibilities of life's ever-changing journey. Clara's philosophy of aging. Andrew leaned forward, his curiosity shining in his eyes. But what about relationships with others? He asked earnestly. Do you think it's still possible to find love or companionship later in life? Clara's face softened, a wistful smile playing on her lips. Oh, absolutely, she said, her voice steady but filled with warmth. Love doesn't have an expiration date. I've seen friends fall in love in their 70s and even their 80s, and let me tell you, it's just as beautiful as young love, perhaps even more so. It's quieter, more intentional, free from the insecurities and distractions of youth. It's not about proving anything or chasing some ideal. It's about truly seeing each other, flaws and all, and choosing to share the time you have left. She paused, her eyes reflecting the flickering firelight. But here's the thing, Andrew, to love someone else deeply, you have to first love yourself. And that's a lesson many people, young and old, struggle to learn. Clara leaned back in her chair, her hands resting on the blanket draped over her lap. She explained how, after her husband passed away, she had been forced to confront a daunting silence within herself. It had been a long and difficult journey, one filled with moments of doubt and grief. But it was also a journey of rediscovery. I spent years learning to enjoy my own company, she said, her voice tinged with a mixture of pride and tenderness. I found joy in the little things, a good book that made me laugh, a walk through the woods where the trees seemed to whisper their secrets, the simple warmth of the sun on my face. These moments became my companions, my reminders that life's beauty is always there if we're willing to look for it. Her eyes sparkled with mischief as she added, "But don't get me wrong, Andrew. If a handsome gentleman were to come knocking on my door tomorrow, I wouldn't turn him away. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. Lessons for a lifetime." As the conversation stretched into the evening, the topic shifted effortlessly, from self-care and the power of solitude to the importance of building a strong community. Andrew found himself captivated by Clara's words, each one infused with a wisdom that made life's complexities feel not only manageable but meaningful. She spoke of resilience, of learning to embrace change, and of the profound value of kindness, both to oneself and to others. Self-care isn't selfish, Clara said at one point, her tone firm. It's essential. How can we give to others if we're running on empty? Whether it's taking time to rest, setting boundaries, or simply allowing yourself to feel joy, self-care is what keeps us whole. It's what allows us to show up for the people we love. Andrew nodded, feeling as though a veil had been lifted. Clara had a way of distilling life's truths into something tangible, something he could carry with him long after their conversation ended. As the clock struck 9, Andrew realized it was time to leave. He stood reluctantly, feeling as though there was still so much more to learn. "Thank you for being so open with me, Clara," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I feel like I've learned more from you in these past few weeks than I have in years." Clara reached out and patted his hand gently, her touch both comforting and grounding. "And thank you, Andrew, for listening," she replied. "These conversations are important, for all of us, no matter our age. If more people were willing to talk about these things, about aging, self-love, and connection, I believe the world would be a much kinder, more understanding place. A path forward." Walking home under the canopy of a star-strewn sky, Andrew felt a profound sense of gratitude. Clara's words had illuminated something within him, a deeper understanding not just of aging but of the human experience itself. She had shown him that life, no matter the stage, is not a downward slope but a continuous unfolding, a series of transformations marked by growth, discovery, and the quiet courage to keep moving forward. Andrew realized that the wisdom Clara had shared wasn't just about growing older, it was about living fully at any age. It was about choosing to embrace life's uncertainties with an open heart and a curious mind. As the cold night air bit at his cheeks, he smiled to himself, carrying the warmth of Clara's firelight and her words within him. He knew he would return to her home again soon, not just to seek answers but to learn how to ask better questions. Because, as Clara had shown him, the most meaningful journeys are the ones where we allow ourselves to keep growing, keep loving, and keep learning. A deeper connection to life. Over the months that followed, Andrew became a regular visitor at Clara's cozy Vermont home. Their weekly conversations transformed into a cherished ritual, a space where Andrew felt free to ask the questions that had always lingered in the corners of his mind. For Clara, these moments were equally meaningful, a chance to reflect on her own journey and share the hard-earned wisdom she had gathered over a lifetime. One warm spring afternoon, as sunlight spilled into Clara's living room and filled it with a golden glow, Andrew broached a subject that had been weighing on him. "Clara," he began hesitantly, "you've talked a lot about embracing desire and connection, even in older age. But how did you deal with the fear of judgment? I mean, people must have had opinions, right?" Clara's expression softened, and she leaned back in her chair, her hands resting lightly on its arms. Judgment," she said, her tone thoughtful. "It's one of society's sharpest weapons, isn't it? When I first began rediscovering these parts of myself, talking openly about desire, intimacy, and even joy in aging, not everyone understood. Some of my friends laughed it off, as if it were something ridiculous or inappropriate for someone my age. A few even looked at me like I had said something scandalous." She paused, her gaze turning distant, as if revisiting the memory. At first, their reactions stung. I doubted myself, wondering if I was doing something wrong or stepping out of bounds. But then I took a step back and realized something important. Their judgment wasn't really about me. It was about their own discomfort, their own fears of aging and everything it represents. Clara's voice grew firmer, steadier. "There was a time when I let those opinions affect me. I had spent so many years living for others, raising my children, being a wife, a caregiver, a friend. I had given so much of myself to the people around me, and I didn't regret it. But as I grew older, I realized something. I deserved to reclaim a piece of myself. I had earned the right to live the rest of my life on my own terms." Andrew nodded, leaning forward, his admiration for Clara deepening. "But how did you push through all that fear? That must have been hard." Clara smiled, her expression one of quiet strength. "It was hard. But I reminded myself of a simple truth. Andrew, other people's opinions are not my reality. Their discomfort doesn't define my worth. When I stopped giving their judgments power, I found a freedom I'd never known before, not just in the choices I made, but in how I saw myself. That freedom was worth every moment of doubt. Clara's unexpected revelation. One breezy afternoon, as the scent of blooming lilacs drifted through the open windows, Clara shared a story that left Andrew smiling with delight. "Did I ever tell you about the time I joined a dance class?" Clara asked, a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Andrew shook his head, his curiosity piqued. "No, but I have a feeling this is going to be good." If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Clara chuckled. "It was just after my 70th birthday. I remember feeling restless, like something was missing. My days were comfortable, but I felt a little stagnant. One of my friends, bless her heart, suggested I try ballroom dancing. At first, I thought the idea was ridiculous. Me, dancing at my age. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed something new. Something daring." She leaned forward, her voice dropping conspiratorially. "So, I signed up. And Andrew, let me tell you, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The first time I stepped onto that dance floor, it was like waking up a part of myself I didn't even realize had fallen asleep. The music, the movement, the way my body responded, it reminded me that I wasn't just alive, but vibrant." Andrew grinned, imagining Clara twirling around a dance floor. "So how did it go? Were you a natural?" Clara laughed heartily, the sound filling the room. "Oh, heavens no. I was absolutely terrible at first. I stepped on so many toes I thought they'd kick me out. But you know what? It didn't matter. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about letting go of expectations and just enjoying the moment. And as I kept at it, I got better. I even started to enjoy the little mistakes because they reminded me I was trying something new." Her expression softened as she continued. "The class wasn't just about dancing. It was about rediscovering joy, reconnecting with a part of myself I thought was lost. And, as a bonus, I met some wonderful people. One of them, a man named Henry, became a dear friend. He was a retired teacher with a laugh that could light up a room. We'd often stay after class, chatting about everything from music to the meaning of life. He taught me something I'll never forget. It's never too late to build new relationships or find happiness in unexpected places." Andrew listened intently, a warm smile on his face. Clara's story wasn't just about dancing. It was about resilience, joy, and the courage to step outside one's comfort zone. It was a reminder that life, no matter the age, is filled with opportunities to rediscover ourselves and to connect with others in meaningful ways. "You've inspired me, Clara," Andrew said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "I think I need to find my own version of ballroom dancing." Clara grinned, her eyes sparkling. "Good. Life is too short to stand still, Andrew. Find what makes you feel alive, and don't be afraid to stumble along the way. That's how we grow." The power of perspective. As the weeks passed, Andrew began to notice subtle but profound changes in himself. Clara's words had a way of weaving themselves into his thoughts, gently challenging the assumptions he had carried for so long. Her stories weren't just engaging, they were a mirror, reflecting truths he hadn't dared to explore. One day, while they sat in Clara's sunlit kitchen, Andrew voiced the realization that had been growing inside him. "Clara," he said, his tone thoughtful, "you've helped me see aging in a completely different way. It's not this slow march toward irrelevance. It's an evolution, something to embrace. But I still struggle with letting go of the things I think I should be. It's like there's this constant pressure to measure up to some invisible standard." Clara chuckled softly, her knowing smile full of warmth. "Ah, the shoulds," she said. "They're heavy, aren't they? Like stones we carry in a bag slung over our shoulders. The thing is, Andrew, most of those shoulds don't even belong to us. They're placed there by society, by family, by all the voices telling us who we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do. She reached across the table and placed her hand gently over his. Let me tell you something I've learned, she continued. The greatest gift you can give yourself is permission to set that bag down. To stop asking what you should do and start asking what you truly want. When you do that, you'll find freedom. The kind of freedom that comes from living a life that's authentically yours. Clara's unexpected revelation. One breezy afternoon, as the scent of blooming lilacs drifted through the open windows, Clara shared a story that left Andrew smiling with delight. Did I ever tell you about the time I joined a dance class? Clara asked, a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Andrew shook his head, his curiosity piqued. No, but I have a feeling this is going to be good. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Clara chuckled. It was just after my 70th birthday. I remember feeling restless, like something was missing. My days were comfortable, but I felt a little stagnant. One of my friends, bless her heart, suggested I try ballroom dancing. At first, I thought the idea was ridiculous. Me, dancing at my age. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed something new. Something daring. She leaned forward, her voice dropping conspiratorially. So, I signed up. And Andrew, let me tell you, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The first time I stepped onto that dance floor, it was like waking up a part of myself I didn't even realize had fallen asleep. The music, the movement, the way my body responded, it reminded me that I wasn't just alive, but vibrant. Andrew grinned, imagining Clara twirling around a dance floor. So how did it go? Were you a natural? Clara laughed heartily, the sound filling the room. Oh, heavens no! I was absolutely terrible at first. I stepped on so many toes I thought they'd kick me out. But you know what? It didn't matter. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about letting go of expectations and just enjoying the moment. And as I kept at it, I got better. I even started to enjoy the little mistakes because they reminded me I was trying something new. Her expression softened as she continued. The class wasn't just about dancing. It was about rediscovering joy, reconnecting with a part of myself I thought was lost. And, as a bonus, I met some wonderful people. One of them, a man named Henry, became a dear friend. He was a retired teacher with a laugh that could light up a room. We'd often stay after class, chatting about everything from music to the meaning of life. He taught me something I'll never forget. It's never too late to build new relationships or find happiness in unexpected places. Andrew listened intently, a warm smile on his face. Clara's story wasn't just about dancing. It was about resilience, joy, and the courage to step outside one's comfort zone. It was a reminder that life, no matter the age, is filled with opportunities to rediscover ourselves and to connect with others in meaningful ways. You've inspired me, Clara, Andrew said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. I think I need to find my own version of ballroom dancing. Clara grinned, her eyes sparkling. Good. Life is too short to stand still, Andrew. Find what makes you feel alive, and don't be afraid to stumble along the way. That's how we grow. The power of perspective. As the weeks passed, Andrew began to notice subtle but profound changes in himself. Clara's words had a way of weaving themselves into his thoughts, gently challenging the assumptions he had carried for so long. Her stories weren't just engaging, they were a mirror, reflecting truths he hadn't dared to explore. One day, while they sat in Clara's sunlit kitchen, Andrew voiced the realization that had been growing inside him. Clara, he said, his tone thoughtful, you've helped me see aging in a completely different way. It's not this slow march toward irrelevance. It's an evolution, something to embrace. But I still struggle with letting go of the things I think I should be. It's like there's this constant pressure to measure up to some invisible standard. Clara chuckled softly, her knowing smile full of warmth. Ah, the shoulds, she said. They're heavy, aren't they? Like stones we carry in a bag slung over our shoulders. The thing is, Andrew, most of those shoulds don't even belong to us. They're placed there by society, by family, by all the voices telling us who we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do. She reached across the table and placed her hand gently over his. Let me tell you something I've learned, she continued. The greatest gift you can give yourself is permission to set that bag down. To stop asking what you should do and start asking what you truly want. When you do that, you'll find freedom. The kind of freedom that comes from living a life that's authentically yours. A legacy of wisdom. Inspired by their conversations, Andrew began sharing Clara's insights with the people in his life. He found himself quoting her during coffee chats with friends or family dinners, often prefacing his stories with, "A very wise woman I know once told me." To his surprise, her wisdom resonated deeply with those who heard it, sparking curiosity and reflection in ways he hadn't anticipated. One evening, as his family gathered around the dinner table, Andrew recounted Clara's story about joining a dance class in her 70s. He described how she had overcome her initial hesitation, how she had rediscovered a part of herself she thought was lost, and how it had brought her unexpected joy. His parents listened intently, their expressions softening as the story unfolded. His mother, who had recently retired and often spoke of feeling restless, seemed especially moved. You know, she said quietly, almost to herself, I've always wanted to learn how to paint. Maybe it's time I finally did something about that. Andrew smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. Clara's wisdom, shared so generously, was rippling outward in ways neither of them could have imagined. It wasn't just transforming his own life, it was touching the lives of those he loved. A final reflection. On his last visit before moving to a new city for work, Andrew arrived at Clara's house with a small gift in hand. It was a framed photograph of a sunset he had taken during one of his walks, a breathtaking explosion of color that seemed to capture the essence of their conversations. This reminded me of our talks, he said, handing it to her. Of how you've taught me to see beauty in every stage of life. Clara's eyes filled with emotion as she accepted the gift. She studied the photograph for a moment, her fingers brushing over the frame. Thank you, Andrew, she said softly, her voice thick with gratitude. That means more to me than you know. As they hugged goodbye, Andrew felt a wave of bittersweet emotion. Clara had given him a gift far greater than he could ever repay, a new way of seeing not only aging but life itself. Her wisdom, rooted in experience and courage, would stay with him as a guide through the unknowns of his own journey. For Clara, the encounter with Andrew had been equally profound. She realized that sharing her truth with him had not only helped him but had also deepened her own understanding of what it meant to live fully and fearlessly. That evening, as she sat by her window and watched the sun sink below the horizon, its warm glow bathing the room in gold, Clara felt a profound sense of peace. She thought of the lessons she had learned, the love she had given and received, and the legacy she had passed on. In the quiet stillness of that moment, Clara smiled to herself. She had lived, she had grown, and she had shared her journey with someone who would carry it forward. For her, that was more than enough. As we wrap up this heartfelt journey, let me ask you, what have you learned today from Clara's story? Did her courage to embrace aging with grace, joy, and authenticity inspire you? Perhaps her perspective on connection, self-love, or rediscovery struck a chord within you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned from this video and how you plan to bring it into practice in your own life. Your thoughts could inspire someone else on their journey, just as Clara's wisdom inspired Andrew, and perhaps even you today. If Clara's story resonated with you, let's keep this conversation going. Please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the heart and inspire the soul. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. Until next time, remember, aging is not about endings, it's about embracing new beginnings. Glowing star.